Hello and welcome to another episode of Your Future in Sales and Marketing, the podcast that helps you make great career decisions from AXR Recruitment and Search. I'm Andrew Cannock and I'm a specialist sales and category recruiter here at AXR. Today, we're delighted to bring you a special episode on the topic of the Joe Berry Award, an annual competition and prize that recognises the most outstanding young talent in the Australian retail industry. To tell us more about it, we're joined by Holly Gregory, Assistant Brand Manager at Arnott and the 2025 Joe Berry Award winner, and Keith Quigg, CEO of Activate Group and President of the Joe Berry Award. We learn all about the award, its role in developing talent and raising standards in the industry, what it's like to enter and win, and more. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Keith, Holly, thank you so much for coming on. How are you both?
Very well.
Tired from having a lot of running around, but good.
Good.
Yeah.
It's great to have you both here. So we're going to dive in with the question we ask everyone that comes on the podcast, which is, what is your favorite brand? And you can't pick one that you've worked on. So Keith, I might start with you.
Well, I suppose if I was politically correct, I'd say Tim Tam, wouldn't I? But
Thank you. Thank you.
It's got to be that way. I pondered this a little bit, but I think, you know what, these days it's probably something like Callaway, something to do with a good game of golf.
Nice.
Very
Close
nice.
to your heart, I can tell.
Close to it.
Yeah.
Very nice. I had to think about this, and I think it has definitely changed over the years and changes quite often. But McDonald's, I think looking at the type of loyalty they develop from Happy Meals when you're a kid, they weave into your childhood. So then those late night moments when you're an adult, all you want is McDonald's. The Golden Arches, there is not, in my opinion, a bigger, more powerful brand asset than those Golden Arches. Such a global powerhouse, but they're still able to localize for their different markets. And I just love nuggets.
Join the club.
Love nuggets.
Nugs, not drugs,
Yes.
kids. And you pivoted. You pivoted quickly from the other QSR that we were talking about before the recording, but you stay within that category, which I love, which is great.
Yes.
Awesome. So let's talk about Joe Berry. Keith, you've been involved with the Joe Berry Award now for a very long time. So take us back to what the award was like in the early days and what it represented for the industry at the time.
It's an interesting proposition. In those days, the whole industry was centralised in each state. So you didn't have the national offices and things that you have now. So each state had a fairly significant organisation that was the grocery industry collectively. Queensland Grocery Industry Association, obviously, it's a mouthful, but in Queensland's terms. But they were pretty active, and they had all of the retailers and all of the big suppliers were members of that. They would run lunches and bring in guest speakers and that sort of stuff. So it was a big part of the business. But they had the initiative to want to look for some form of talent recognition program. So they set themselves on the Joe Berry Award. And the logic of the Joe Berry Award was that Joe Berry himself was an innovator in the retail industry. So he invented the twist tie. He brought in open front freezers, or open front dairy fridges, I should say, to be able to sell milk in supermarkets. He was the first one to bring shopping trolleys into Australia. So there's a whole list of things that he did that were innovative. So the idea of the talent innovation concept put that together. He was also apparently very, very good with his people, that he made sure that the people working for him were able to talk to him to be able to be part of the business, not separated in any way. So it was a pretty good choice from that perspective. They then just settled on an essay-style competition so that they could get the feelings and opinions of young people out of them rather than the normal proposition where they're always a little bit tight in terms of wanting to give out information. And they set it up in 1986. The first one wasn't huge. It only had a couple of entries. Bernie Brooks, AM, was the initial winner of the award. And of course, Bernie is still very heavily involved in the industry. He's patron of the Joe Berry Award, which I think is a marvellous thing. He's now chairman of the Australian Food and Grocery Council. So he's playing a big role in the industry still. And that's 40 odd years later. So it's elevated itself from there. And because of the basis that it had, where it genuinely recognised talent, then this year we're celebrating its 40th anniversary. We're in the process of developing it. They don't stay around that long if they don't deliver.
And how have you seen it evolve over the years? What's changed and what's remained consistent?
We took it over in 2005 when the QGIA was disbanded, obviously for that nationalisation of the industry specifically. And we didn't run a contest that year because we didn't have time to get our heads together. the information that was passed to us was scanned. So apart from a list of sponsors and a whole big box of 3.25-inch floppy disks, which nobody can ever read because nobody's got the equipment to read it. So we have not much idea of what the history was, other than we know the people. So we know who the winners were through the years. So we've got those contacts with us still. When we took it over in our first year, we had about 105, 110 people that registered for information. We had 17 essays submitted. We had a panel of 6 people on the judging panel. This year, just completed, we had nearly 400 people register. We had 80 essays submitted, and we had 32 people on the judging panel. And since then, in the last 2 weeks, we've had 3 or 4 more companies come in wanting to become sponsors and supporters of the award. So the evolution of it has been significant growth, but huge respect for the award across the industry. So those people like Holly have had the chance to win the award, consistently get accolades and recognition across the industry. And those who make the finals and compete usually get some form of recognition in their own organisations, and in many cases, fairly rapid promotion. So it's very influential.
Great. I'm going to include a definition of what a floppy disk is in the show notes for anyone of Holly's age who has no idea what that is.
I have to say I don't know what that is.
We'll talk afterwards. Speaking of Holly, we've got a celebrity in the room. Holly, you're the 2025 winner of the Joe Berry Award. A very big congratulations.
Thank you.
Talk us through what that journey looked like. So what inspired you to enter in the first place, and then what was the process like from there?
Yeah, thank you. So I would take you back to my very first day as a graduate. I was 21 years old. I came in with all the ambition, the curiosity, the energy. I had my first meeting with my manager and I expressed all of this to him. And he said, well, I know the perfect opportunity for you. And this was the first week of February that I started. And for those that know, you have to submit the essay at the end of February. So I had 2 weeks to pull something together. But for me, it was a great opportunity to dive headfirst into the industry. I had just come out of university, my first ever role in retail or FMCG. And so I just wanted to dive in, become an expert, challenge myself. First time around, it was great, but because I only had 2 weeks to complete it, I feel like I didn't get the full benefit of the journey. It's not a uni assignment that you want to pump out in 2 weeks. It's something you want to give time to. You want to talk to people. You want to challenge your opinions. You want to challenge other people's opinions. And so I always knew I wanted to come back, but just when I had a bit more time and experience. So fast forward to November last year, topics got released. There was a topic around innovation, the current barriers to innovation, which I was very much feeling working at Arnott, and immediately was drawn to it. But I still had that little niggle of, I have another 11 years to compete in the award. Should I wait? Should I get more experience? Should I do more time in the industry? But kind of took that and thought, well, it just means I have to put that much more effort in, that much more time in. So did a couple of hours each week, and it was just a continuous process of feedback, asking different people for their opinion. I went from, okay, I can do this, to I can't do this, to my thesis is completely wrong, to, okay, maybe I've got something here. So it was a really good journey and just getting different people's opinions. And yes, but even starting early, as Keith can attest to, I still submitted at 11:58 p.m. the night it was due. So,
along with many others.
Along with many others, yes.
I'm sure.
So yes, and then was fortunate enough to be announced as a finalist. And again, if I was feeling any sort of fear or doubt of the unknown, that was just amplified. Immediate joy and happiness when I found out, but it was quite quickly followed with, how on earth am I going to compete against people who are more experienced and more senior than me, have more time in the role? So again, I just took that mindset of, I'm going to put every single thing I had into it. So that was probably the most intense month of my life. I woke up every morning, was listening to podcasts, I was reading articles. During the day, I was asking different people for their opinions. I was practicing. I was getting all my nerves out. I was failing at many of my very unfunny jokes. And then it got to a point where I was really confident about what I was going forward with. So no matter the outcome, it was an incredible process. And I think that's the way it should be treated, as a process.
Yeah. So you
Absolutely.
Put the yeah. So you put the work in and you got the reward, which must have been hugely satisfying, and I'm sure a little bit surreal.
100%.
At the time.
Yes, definitely.
And we were talking before in terms of some of the opportunities that have presented themselves to you since winning, but what are the biggest things you've taken away from the whole experience, both kind of personally and professionally?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, apart from a study tour, which is going to be very exciting, and having a new best friend in Keith over here, the biggest thing I took away that has impacted me the most since, both professionally and personally, has been a change in perspective and sort of a different way of thinking. So I've done 3.5 years in the industry. During that time, I learned a lot about marketing, but only a little bit about the industry itself. And so I came into this Joe Bear experience and it completely shifted my mindset and approach to different situations. And it forced me to kind of pull myself out of my everyday marketing job and start to try and think like a general manager. And so it was something that I found a bit challenging at first. I was very siloed in my marketing supplier point of view, but I quickly realized that marketing is my functional skill set. That's what I do day to day. But when that's combined with a general manager mindset, it's really powerful. And so throughout the process, I was constantly asking myself, okay, what would the retailer think about this idea? How would a retailer evaluate my way of thinking? And even just beyond supplier versus retailer, it started to become, what would different functions think? Every single function, from finance, sales, everyone has different risks, different priorities, different measures of success. And so I started to put myself in those shoes because I knew I wanted to present myself as a commercial leader, not just a marketer. And so I think the process really allowed me to push beyond that and start to view the retail industry as a whole ecosystem, start to see businesses as end-to-end. And then that translated to me personally in terms of I started to see myself not just as that marketer, but as that general manager as well, who could be a future general manager.
There's so much good stuff in what you just said. I think that earlier in career, someone can start to think along those lines, the richer, more rewarding, more successful career they're going to have. And actually, the better they'll be at their day job.
Yes,
as well.
Completely agree. And it was something that I didn't realize I was missing until I came into the Joe Berry Award, and the questions are all generalist questions. The essay questions, they do have their areas, but you have to be well-rounded. And so I think it's something that I put out to all the listeners of, that is something you can absolutely gain from the Joe Bear experience, is it will push you to consider other people's perspectives. But now even when I approach challenges in a work setting or different situations, I now just think, what is the person beside me thinking? If they're approaching something differently, why are they thinking that way? And so I think it's made me a much more well-rounded individual as opposed to just thinking in my marketing sense.
Great. And it's probably a little bit soon after winning to talk about any immediate impact on career. I don't know, but do you feel ultimately the experience will benefit you from a career perspective as well?
Yes, I definitely do. And it's something, as Keith has said, this is just the start. But I think one of the biggest impacts I felt is just in my day-to-day job and starting to be seen not just as Holly the marketer, but as a commercial leader. And I think it's the beauty of Joe Berry is it gives you visibility and credibility within your organization. And so recently I've been receiving mentorship from one of our national business managers. And during this time, I've said to them, I really want to continue to grow my experience. I want to continue to grow my remit, my understanding of sales. And she came back and said, great, we've got a major customer review coming up. Why don't you help out? And so by the next day, I was in a meeting with our sales team. And when she introduced me, she said, you'll notice Holly's here, but she isn't here as a marketer. She's here as a commercial leader. And I don't think that shift in mindset could have happened so early on in my career or so effortlessly without being seen in that light through the Joe Berry experience. And also full credibility to her and Arnott for taking that and respecting what the Joe Berry experience has done for me. And so, it was phenomenal. And I got to go in, present to one of our major customers, was one of 5 people in the room, and it just opens doors internally.
Yeah.
One of the things that happens in the Joe Berry Award, which pretty much sits on my desk and it's part of my joy in it, that I get a whole list of names and people coming through. I don't know who they are. It's a blind thing. It's blind all the way through till we make the final decision on who's going to be a finalist. But what I do get to see is their ages and their locations and that sort of thing. And we look at, while we don't differentiate, the top 6 essays, regardless, are the ones invited to contest the finals. But when I look at those that are in 22, 23, 24, I raise my eyebrows and go, gee, I don't know whether at that age you can handle the process of a final in the Joe Berry Award. This young lady proved us wrong. She just showed us that if you have that application that she's talking about now, if you think through the process, it comes through. It shows the judges saw exactly what she's talking about there now. And it's one of those beauties of the award that is not seen unless you're really there and understanding what's going on.
Thanks, Keith.
And so, Keith, as you made a really good point, which is that this has been going for 40 years and it wouldn't have been doing that unless it had a significant impact and importance. What role do you think the award has played in shaping careers and helping to kind of lift the standards of leadership within the industry?
Yeah, that in itself has been an evolving proposition because it depends on the individual sporting companies where they see the Joe Berry lying. And even today, after 40 years, we're still getting senior people who are finding somebody in their own organisation who's writing an essay and they're going, what are you doing? Finding out and going, gee, I didn't know that. Or I didn't know you wanted to be involved in that. Or I didn't know you had that skill to do that. So you're getting this internal exposure of skill and talent that has always been there, but nobody's gone looking. And the Joe Berry is starting to prompt consistently into companies and into leaders to want to go there. So what we're getting now, and it's just happened as new companies coming in the last few weeks, they're coming in because they want to use the Joe Berry Award as a professional development program within their businesses. Yep. We can send you out to do modular training where that'll improve your skill, but it doesn't necessarily show us you in any different form. Whereas the Joe Berry Award requires you to step right outside your comfort zone, to engage with a lot of other people, to network, to really research a particular topic. And remember, these topics are carefully designed to be relevant to today's market, not just a topic we thought might be interesting. Because we put them out in November, they have to be relevant in June next year. So we've got to pick them carefully. But we also try and make it fairly tricky so that while the question is directed, we still want the opinions of the individual. So we want you to write it your way, but we want you to show us what the passion is that you've got in the industry. When the internal management starts to get involved in seeing that come out, then the longevity of the award is ensured because it's delivering.
What would you say to someone who's thinking about entering, but they're hesitant or they're on the fence? What challenges do you think they might face, but why is it ultimately worth pursuing it?
That's the question that is asked 1,000 times every year by the individuals themselves and by other people as to what do you say to them? And it's basically, have you got the courage to take your career a step forward? If you really want your career to go, then why are you mucking around? Get on with it. Yes, it's tough. Yes, you've got to put yourself out of your comfort zone. Yes, it's going to take hours to put a good presentation together. But when you come out the other end, you'll be a different person. And we back that up in the sense that every time we see, we have a help desk, which is primarily me, but we have a help desk right from day one. And if you can't get started, ring me and I'll tell you how to get started. If you've got a draft of your essay, send it to me and I'll edit it for you and tell you where you can improve it. All of that stuff goes on the whole time. So we're not just wanting 80 essays. We want the best out of people that we can get into those essays. So let's help them. Go and talk to other people in your business. Holly did that. Go and talk to people in other businesses. And what they come back, and we had that yesterday at a seminar, that question was asked. Everybody says, every time I stepped out to ask somebody else for help, they went, oh, yeah, Joe Berry, yeah, I'll help you. No problem. No knockbacks. People get involved. They know about it. They get involved. They become part of it. And you just got this thing that in itself starts to protect those that make the decision to go forward. They come out the other where I was going with that was when we know that they're submitting essay, we then go straight back to the companies and say, by the way, these people or this person has submitted an essay for Joe Berry Award. You should go and talk to them. So we're making sure that they don't hide in a corner, that they're being bought out, they're getting recognised. For some of those, depending on the company, the size of the company, smaller companies, it's pretty easy and everybody will know pretty quickly. In a bigger company like a Coles or a Woolworths, for example, you're one of thousands. But when you get a call from the CEO's office that says, oh, I've heard you've done an essay, your world changes.
So, Holly, what advice would you give to the next generation of entrants? Is there anything looking back that you wish you knew going in at the start?
I think the biggest thing for me was at the start, the fear of the unknown was outweighing my initial motivation to enter. And I think it's something that I've definitely felt throughout my career of uncertainty brings out a lot of nerves, a lot of self-doubt, and coupled with that sort of fear of the unknown is often imposter syndrome. In my case of, I was on the young side. I know I was more junior than a lot of the other people and all of the other finalists. And I think to that, I would just say the fact that you are uncomfortable actually shows that you're stretching yourself and you're pushing yourselves in the right way. And the fear of the unknown is always a lot worse than what actually happens. And you just have everything to gain out of the experience and nothing to lose. And so similar to what Keith was saying, just get started. Just when the topics come out, put a couple of hours aside a week, be open, be curious. And it was something I didn't do the first time around, but did a lot of the second time around, was talk to people. Ask them to read your essay, ask them for their opinions, challenge their opinions. One thing throughout the process was learning that even though I respected someone, I admired their work, it didn't necessarily mean I had to take their feedback at its face value. And it's something that the process does, is it gives you the confidence to start evaluating ideas and opinions and perspectives and then forming your own. And I think as someone who was quite junior, I didn't have that, but by hearing all of these different perspectives, talking to people, getting that feedback, it meant that I now knew exactly what my opinion was. And it's something that I still take away to this day. So fear of the unknown is always worse than it actually is. Mm-hmm. And just get stuck in. You have so much to gain.
Yeah. And the point you made earlier around, anyone thinking, oh, I've got so much time on my hands. I can enter this one day. I'll do it next year or the year after. To your point, you don't wait for the perfect time. You just go for it. And even if you make some mistakes, which you inevitably will, because everyone does in everything, you get to try again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could not agree more. And it's something that the earlier you start sort of this process and getting familiar with it, I entered twice already and I'm only 25. And it's something that, what do you have to lose by starting early? You just have everything to gain, and connections that you make early on in your career, they can shape the rest of your career. And so I actually think starting early, getting involved in the process early is so key, because now I can walk away with a lot of confidence that I didn't have before during the experience. A lot of new knowledge, skills, understanding of the industry. To my earlier point, a new sort of perspective on looking at FMCG and retail and the function of a business as a whole. So I would argue that getting in earlier and starting as early as possible in your career is actually key.
Quick one. Can you win this award more than once?
No.
That's a great
question.
That's
a great news for anyone thinking of entering, because Holly's out, guys. Holly's out. If she wasn't, we'd be encouraging her to take a year off, give everyone else a chance.
Our record is 8 entries, one person entering 8 times. They finally made the finals. They didn't win the award, but they made the finals.
Wow.
I have a few that I could name that are 3, 4, 5 times that they've entered the award. What happens with them is they eventually love getting involved in the research and the actually essay writing. They get past that hump of, how do I do it, into, this is great. I got to do this. And if they're getting recognition inside their business for the work they're doing, then it's happening. It's rewarding anyway, whatever happens.
Yeah, the value's in the process. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Keith, what's next for Joe Berry? How do you see it continuing to evolve and to stay relevant?
I got asked that question the other day about 3 and 4 year, 5 year plans and things like that. And my answer was, we don't have one. We have a next year plan. And because we're looking at the industry today, we're looking at it in terms of where is it going to be in 9 months' time. And that's the focus that we have to keep. But every year that I've been involved, we've done a tweak of some description, some little thing that changes it either to suit the market or to suit the audience or whatever we got. Now, when you get 80 essays in, the matrix of getting those essays out to be read and scored is horrendous. It takes a lot of work. Because our process is that if you work for a company, nobody from your company will get to judge your essay. And when you get the likes of Coles and Woolies sending in significant numbers of essays, it becomes tough to get them out. Now, I have over 100 executives across this industry who are happy to take 4 or 5 essays, read them and mark them. And that's magnificent in itself, that many executives. And I had 2 more put their hands up this week to add to it. So it's a growing proposition. So they see the value in the sense of, I get to read 5 essays on innovation and new product development, or on store formats, or on automation in the industry. I'm going to learn a hell of a lot. So yes, it's going to take me a few hours to read and do this, but yes, my hands up, I'll do that. Then I've got a panel of 32, as it was this year, 32 judges sitting in a room for a whole day, watching 6 people come forward and do their presentations and handle their Q&A and go through that process. And they'll be there every year. You don't have to ring them twice to say, are you coming? They're there because the same thing happens. When those people in the room, they're there for an education. And they know that not only are they getting that education, but they're looking at the talent in the industry, not necessarily their own. but they're seeing the level of talent in the industry. They can compare it to their own teams. They can look at the things they need to do to develop from themselves. So it's an award that doesn't just benefit the individuals who make the effort. Everybody across the industries can some sort of flow on out of the Joe Berry Award.
Yeah. Because all those people you just referenced there, they're always going to be hungry for opportunities to actually look up from the day job and look outside their own business. Because it's hard to do that proactively. So, no, brilliant. And question for you both, maybe Holly, I'll start with you. If you were to look 5-10 years ahead, what impact do you hope that the award has had across the FMCG and other industries in Australia?
It's a great one. And I think when you look 5 or 10 years ahead, I think it still needs to be a platform of developing and giving a platform to young talent. And to Keith's earlier point, it is something we need to look at within a 12-month view. But I think that's the beauty of the award, is that its purpose and intent doesn't change. It's something that continues to shape and develop young talent. It gives them a voice in front of 32 executives. I can very comfortably say that there is no other point in my career where I've had the opportunity to be in front of 32 executives, have them listening to me, questioning me. It is very invaluable. And so, yeah, I think just having it continue to be a platform of developing young leaders. And to your point, Andrew, getting young executives out of their day-to-day job. I think your day-to-day job comes with preconceived notions. It comes with a title. It comes with expectations. And that is the beauty of the award, is it's a generalist award. It takes you out of your job. It strips away all hierarchy, all bias, and it's purely about how you show up on the day, how you answer the judges' questions, how you analyze problems and respond. And I think that that should still hold true in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, great. And Keith, if you were to be 5 or 10 years in the future and look back, what would you like to say about the Joe Berry Award and the impact that it's had?
Well, my simple answer to that is I'd like to know that it's still going. Don't let it die.
Yeah, love it. Finally, for anyone who's listening, who's thinking about entering or actually encouraging one of their teams to enter, what's your one piece of advice that you would leave them with?
Yeah, the person who's pushing or the person who's going to enter?
Either or both.
The person who is pushing is do it with motivation. Don't make people do it. Motivate them to do it. Give them a reason that it will help them down the path to take this step. That's the motivation factor. Pushing people into it won't work.
Get them to listen to this podcast would be a good start.
Yeah, even better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Holly?
I would say just do it. Nike. Yeah. I think it just starts with a couple of hours a week. It can be very manageable if you start early, get stuck into it. And yes, it is a competition. Everyone who enters, I wanted to win. Everyone wants to win. But I think the real richness in the process is the journey. It is the conversations that you get to have with people in your organization or externally that you wouldn't otherwise have. It's the pressure testing of ideas. It's the ways of thinking. It's the new skills, the knowledge. You grow so much professionally and personally that it is 100% worthwhile. And so I would say just do it. Start out a couple of hours a week. Definitely use Keith. Keith has been incredible, and I cannot give Keith enough credit for everything he does, not only for the award, but the people going into the award. He's been an incredible mentor, and so use Keith. Make Keith the new best friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something I love about Joe Berry is that it actually kind of formalizes and recognizes all the principles and things that you should be doing to maximize your career development anyway.
Yes.
Go into the Joe Berry experience all the things you've talked about today. But if you don't have to wait to enter this, you can have your Joe Berry experience right now. Start thinking broader than just your role. Start building your network. Ask questions. Build your profile. Take control of your own career. And there's no downside that can come from that. Be thankful for all the work that you do. And Holly, congratulations again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Thank you both so much for coming on.
Thanks, Andrew.
That was another episode of Your Future in Sales and Marketing. We're here to help you make great career decisions. So if anything covered in today's episode has made you think about your own career, reach out to us for a conversation. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed and follow our company LinkedIn page for all the latest updates. See you next time.